Welcome, everyone. We're going to get started in just a few minutes. It looks like Officer McElwee is with us.
I know we're not yet at 7, but we do have a quorum. So when we get there, whenever you're ready, Madam Chair.
Excellent. All right, let's get the commissioners who are here spotlighted for everyone. Can we do that? Thank you. All right, welcome, welcome.
Tricia, can you hear me?
I can. Did you get my text?
Apparently not.
I sent it maybe like 6 or 7 minutes ago.
Okay, let me check.
Okay, it's private, so I don't want to say what it says. It's personal. Okay, it is 7 o'clock.
Look, I am in Salt Lake City, and I have to leave in about a half an hour.
That's right. I totally forgot. Okay, so just so the other commissioners know, there is a chance that I may need to leave the meeting early for a family matter. And if that is what happens, Commissioner Elkins, are you standing ready to take over?
Yes, I will do that.
Thank you. All right, Catherine, this is looking weird on my screen. Are we spotlighted for the audience?
I see you as the
You're
as the
spotlighted.
speaker. I bet you are. Yeah, you're and
I think we're,
Commissioner Davis is now on. Commissioner Roosevelt just pinged in, so I'm sure we can spotlight him shortly.
It may be, let's see.
it's just the view that I'm seeing is not what I'm used to seeing just the commissioners, which helps me.
Let me see if I can help.
Okay, well, while we are figuring out the tech, I'm going to go ahead and make a motion on the floor is to approve the agenda. Is there a second?
A second.
We do have one addition. We are joined today by the Executive Office of the Mayor to give us a presentation on the budget. So that will be added under our discussions. And then we are deleting the MacArthur High School expansion plans to include the cafeteria and auditorium. That will not be on the agenda. Does anyone have any questions?
Madam Chairman, we
Okay.
cannot spotlight people if they don't turn on their camera, and some of our commissioners may have a problem in that regard, so.
Hi, sorry, I'm walking back to the room right now. I'll turn on my camera once I'm settled.
That's okay. Well, no, thank you for being here, Commissioner Cologne, and Bernie. Commissioner Horn has his camera off too, which is totally fine. And I see that Commissioner Davis has now joined us. So without objection, the agenda is approved. Okay, Officer McElwee, are you here? I think I saw you in the list. We're
He is here. Yeah,
We're
there
going
he
to get
is.
spotlighted and hand it over to you.
Hi, good evening, Commissioner Duncan. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we see you. Thank you.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Thanks for having me, representing the Metropolitan Police. I'm Tony McAwee, your traffic officer as well. We've got a real brief crime report. I'll start off that our crime is down. It's down quite a bit. We had 8 offenses over the last 30 days. I'll start off with the most. We did have one serious offense. They're all serious, but this was very serious in nature. We had one robbery snatch. A robbery snatch is like a pickpocket, or they snatch something out of your hand. This robbery snatch occurred on Friday, April 5th at around 11:15 a.m. inside the City Bank located at 5250 MacArthur Boulevard. The victim was standing in the lobby area of the bank when a black male described as 6 foot, 185 pounds, wearing a black pants and a red short sleeve shirt, wearing a black headscarf, grabbed the money out of the victim's hand and fled the bank on foot eastbound along MacArthur Boulevard. I personally was on the scene of this, and we got there right away. Deployed K9, we deployed our Falcon helicopter, and he still managed to escape and get away from us. The detectives still have not identified him, although they are still working the case. We had 3 theft from autos. Oh, it's also important to say that the victim was not hurt. We had 3 theft from autos, which is a very large decrease from prior months. For example, in October and November of 2023, we had over 35 theft from autos. The things that were being stolen from these theft from autos are wallets, backpacks, and purses left in plain view inside all these vehicles. Well, in this case, just the 3 vehicles. Just please remember to remove all your valuables from plain view and lock your vehicles. The location of the thefts were, just to give you an idea, 3100 block of 44th Street, 4600 block of Mass Avenue, and 4000 block of 47th Street. And we also had 4 general thefts. One was a package theft from a porch. And while I'm on the topic of package thefts, the 2nd District recently installed Amazon lockboxes in front of the 2nd District for anyone to use free of charge. Please take advantage of that and keep that in mind. And finally, traffic locations I focused on was 4500 Macomb Street, MacArthur Boulevard, Reservoir Road and Foxhall, Ward Circle. And we stepped up our traffic enforcement at the red light running at and blocking the box at MacArthur and Arizona Avenues. As you can see, the city installed some bike lanes in there, and they changed some of the turn lanes. So some of the motorists are confused as well. They'll get acclimated to it. But you should still stop at the red lights, and you should still not block the box. I will continue to monitor that situation out there. I do want to mention we had an incident that was covered. It was on the news. We arrested an individual on an AU bus last week. This occurred on April 27th at around 7:36 p.m. on Nebraska Avenue, where an individual was on one of the American University buses and had verbally threatened someone on the bus, and had made gestures or made it look like he had a weapon. It should be noted that there was no weapon found. The individual was stopped on the bus. He was apprehended and he was arrested and charged. And he was charged with felony threats. And it's also the case has been papered. Paper means it's going through the process of the courts and the U.S. Attorney's Office. With that said, I'd be happy to take any complaints, concerns, questions.
I have nothing, but I'll open it up to commissioners. I would like to add that Citibank reimbursed the woman who was robbed in their lobby of her $1,200 after she went on the news. Commissioner Nowak.
Thank you, Officer McAwee, always doing a great job for our neighborhood. I'll just put in my monthly plug for our friends at Foxhall and Reservoir who like to blow straight down Foxhall from the left turn lane. If you have few hours and want to write some tickets, that's always appreciated.
And I will, and I was out there last month. I quickly touched on that. That's one of my favorite spots.
Yeah. It's always a good one to knock out your quota.
Well, we don't have a quota, but it's usual commuters, the Virginia, Maryland people cutting through your community, and they know that sign's there. They know they need to go left.
Thank you.
Commissioner Cologne Roosevelt?
Could you give us more information on the AU shuttle thing? I mean, I use it pretty often, so I don't know, was it a student? What exactly happened there?
I don't know. I don't know who the individual was. Excuse me for 1 minute here.
That is information that Laura Marks, the AU representative,
Maybe, yeah.
able to tell us.
Yeah, I see Miss Marks is on there, and I just sent her a copy of the police report. I don't know who, I wasn't on that scene, but it was on side of an American University bus.
And there was no weapon. It was just they thought that he might have one.
They thought he had one, and he lifted up his shirt like he may have had one, but again, he did not have a weapon. He was arrested, and he was charged with the threats that he made to the individual on the bus, and that was felony threats, as we call it.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Hey, everybody be safe. Thanks for having us. Good night.
Thank you.
I'm gonna put my email in the chat box, okay? Yeah.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Matt.
Up next is the Mayor's Office of Community Relations. Matthew Barclay, you're up.
Hello, everyone. My name is Matthew Barclay. I'm the Ward 3 Liaison in the Mayor's Office of Community Relations and Services. Please reach out anytime if you need an assistance or if you'd like to share thoughts with me. I'll leave my information in the chat. A few updates. The District Department of Energy and Environment Solar for All program was awarded $62.45 million from the EPA. This funding will help expand the benefits of clean solar energy to roughly 19,000 low and moderate income households. I'll leave that in the chat. Additionally, or not additionally, crime trends, separate subject, crime trends. Overall, crime continues to trend downward. Homicides and assault with dangerous weapons are down 24% and 31% respectively. Violent crime is down 25% compared to this time last year, and overall crime is down 14%. And I'll leave more information in the chat. Also, DPR is having their enrollment for boost camps. This is for youth ages 11 to 13, and they can gain exposure to specialty areas like rockets, robotics, esports, journalism, and drones, and I'll leave the information in the chat. And finally, thank you for allowing time for Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Walker to present the Mayor's FY25 budget tonight. He'll be touching on 3 focus areas of the budget: downtown, public safety, and education. And I will leave the slide deck and budget.dc link in the chat. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Commissioner Simkowitz.
Mr. Barclay, I believe the mayor is going to be at the Georgetown meeting on with the community next week sometime. Do you know what day that is?
I do not, but I can get back to you with that answer.
Yeah, that would be great because I know a lot of people in my neighborhood go to that meeting as well. So thank you.
I'll get back to you.
We can post that on our community listservs if you get that information to us also. Okay, we're moving on. Thank you, Mr. Barclay.
You're welcome.
I believe next up is the Ward 3 Council Member Matt Fruman's office, and Taylor Kojan is our representative. I think I saw her in the list.
Yep, I'm here.
Welcome.
Thanks. So I'm Taylor Kogan. I'm the council member's communications director. So as you know, we are in our last round of budget oversight hearings. They conclude tomorrow, May 2nd. So the next 3 committees have budget markups, followed by the chairman's presentation. The council's first vote on the budget will be May 29th. Obviously, you're going to hear more about the mayor's proposed budget, but all the council members are certainly working on the budget to make it, the best for Ward 3 residents and for all district residents. NPD 2nd District has a number of community walks, but it looks like just one Ward 3 this month in the upper part. As usual, these are an opportunity to walk with police officers, meet your neighbors, and ask questions on the way. that walk will be at 4 p.m. on Tuesday, May 28th at the end of the month, up on Connecticut Avenue at Jocelyn Street. And then WMATA has 2 surveys out right now, one for bus, one for train. And I'll put those in the chat so that you can take those, you can share those with people. Additionally, if you have not signed up for the Better Bus email alerts, WMATA is good about sending alerts on that. They sent one earlier this week, yesterday, saying that they will have more information on their Better Bus network for 2025 coming later this month. So that'll be there will be time for people to engage through different events, through an online portal, et cetera, et cetera. So that'll be important. We had a great work day in the ward last week where the council member and our team met with residents who were able to join us at Tate. And you can save the date for the next one on Thursday, May 23rd. We aim these to be on the 4th Thursday of each month. We're going to different neighborhoods around the ward each time. And this month it'll be in Venice. That is pretty much all I have. I have some, if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to help with those.
So real quick with the budget, I know that you're finishing up the budget hearings. What is the process for the council to approve the budget?
So that might be covered in the mayor's presentation, but how I understand it, that because it's my first year on council through it. But so next week we'll start the committee markups where the committees will go through their priorities and then they will present them. And then the chairman comes up and then they have they have a budget work session. All of the council does. The chairman has his presentation. And then, like I said, the council goes through its round of 2 votes.
Okay.
So it's very, very thorough. It starts with performance oversight hearings, then we have more hearings for budget oversight. Honestly, I come from working with Dallas City Council, so it's really interesting to see how much of a deep dive we go into it, but it's, for the good. So that's where we are.
And then the bus is very important to ANC3D. Do you have any idea what these WMATA surveys are, what kind of data they're trying to collect?
I don't. I actually just saw it came out with them. And I know that we had a survey that we circulated for them to, maybe a month and a half ago. It wasn't that long ago. And then obviously the Better Bus is coming out. So I'm not exactly sure.
Sorry, you can just drop them in the chat and we'll take a look at them.
Okay.
Okay. Does anyone else have any questions for Taylor? Okay. Thank you very much for coming.
Sure. I'll stay on if anyone wants to message anything.
Okay. I do not believe DDOT is on tonight. So we are moving to our higher education institutions. And first up is American University, Laura Marks.
Hi, everybody. Laura Marks for American University, Office of Community and Government Relations. Just wanted to say a quick thank you to MPD for their excellent, speedy response to the incident on the shuttle last weekend. As far as I'm aware, the individual did not have any relationship to AU. But if anyone would like to sign up for AU alerts, you can receive messages directly from our public safety office if there's anything of concern on campus, and I will drop that link in the chat. That's how I found out about it over the weekend, and it was a very useful way of getting information. Just a few important dates coming up for AU that I wanted to flag for everybody. Starting next Wednesday, May 8th, we will have students starting move out, followed by commencement on the main campus Friday, May 10th, Saturday, May 11th. And then the Washington College of Law commencement follows the following Saturday on May 18th. And if you are really looking ahead on the calendar, our move-in begins on August 17th. So that is, those are the big dates coming up for us. I will drop those in the chat and as well as my email, and I'll be on if anybody has anything else.
Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Marks? Thank you for coming.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay, we are moving on. And I believe I also saw up next is George Washington University, Kevin Days.
Good evening. So I'll be stepping in for Kevin today. He had another event tonight for GW.
That's right. I'm sorry, Gabrielle. Thank you, Ms. Sosa. Thank you.
No worries. So good evening, everyone. For those of you who are not familiar with me, my name is Gabrielle Sosa, and I'm the Assistant Director of Government Relations and Stakeholder Engagement at George Washington University. Kevin Days, who's usually here, the Director of Community Relations, couldn't be here tonight, but he sends his regards. No, not a lot of updates for me. Just wanted to go over our end of year calendar and let everyone know that our spring semester does finish up this coming week, and final exams are beginning next week from May 4th to May 10th, with commencement weekend May 16th to the 19th. There'll be a few weeks, 1 or 2 downtime on Mount Vernon campus, but then right back up. You'll see activity again. We host a lot of summer camps, athletic camps over the summer, and use it still for student spaces. So you'll still see some activity on campus over the summer, but just wanted to let everyone know that the regular calendar year is coming to a close. But that's all.
Do you have a move out day for Mount Vernon campus?
Yes, so the move out will begin during after that first week of exams, but then it continues up until I believe the 12th, and then after that people can apply for extensions on move out. I don't have the exact number of students that applied for extensions to stay on campus, but I can get you that and send you an email.
Okay, I think it's fine. It seems like it's going to be staggered. Commissioner Roosevelt.
First, Ms. Marks, could you drop the AU safety thing in the chat again? Yeah, thank you. But I have a question for GW about their response to the student protest over the past week. I
Yeah.
think, yeah, I mean, I understand that you have like full control over what student activity happens on your campus. I've heard of students being evicted for peacefully protesting, having their meal plans cut off, and I think that's wrong, but I do understand that's under your purview. But I understand that you also like tried to call an MPD, and when they said that they wouldn't assist you in clearing the encampment, you've called in like Republican members of Congress who have threatened to like attack home rule and make the mayor and the MPD chief testify to Congress about how they're handling crime in their city and how they see safety in DC. And I think like as a resident of DC for my entire life, a city that's been like incredibly hospitable to your university, I'm really outraged that you invited like Lauren Boebert to campus today. I think like you're going way too far, and I really wish the administration would try to deal with this in another way that doesn't go around DC and our mayor and our police.
Of course, happy to provide clarification on that, because we did not invite the oversight committee to campus. They informed us that they would be attending. We obviously accommodated that. They wanted to walk through the public streets that go through our campus to see the encampments. They were on public streets. And so we were just informed of this yesterday, that they would like to attend campus and visit campus. As for working with the mayor's office, we did reach out to her and request extra resources from the city. GWPD has limited resources to accommodate the number of both GW and external community members that are on our campus currently. We did not reach out to the Congress once they had given us their decision to not.
I understand administration met with them though.
Yeah,
Is
we
that
did meet
wrong?
with the mayor after it was.
No, did you meet with the members of Congress who were there today?
Yes, we did greet them once they arrived on our campus at their request.
But what do you see as the path forward? Are you going to continue calling on the mayor to send in police?
So our president did meet with the mayor and had a conversation with her. The mayor offered continued support in the ways that she saw fit. So we are still working with the city. There is MPD presence on our campus. They have not made any arrests. And the mayor and the administration at GW will continue to be in contact as well with MPD. But yes, just want to reiterate that the university did not go to Congress. We did not
Okay, thank you
try
for clarifying that. I was
yeah.
very concerned.
Of course, we understand. Our main focus on GW's campus is the safety and security of our community and those visiting our campus as well. So that is where our focus is at, and that's where our focus will remain. Thank you.
For those of you in the audience who don't know, this is not happening at the campus in Palisades. The protests are happening at the campus downtown.
Yes.
Not that it's not important, but I just wanted to make that distinction.
Thank you.
Mr. Barclay.
I have an answer to JP's question. The mayor will be attending the Georgetown, Citizens Association of Georgetown, Tuesday, May 7th, and it looks like that meeting begins at 6 p.m.
Thank you, Mr. Barclay.
That would be great if you could drop that in the chat too. Ms. Sosa, thank you so much for this update. We are all watching what's happening, so
Of course.
thank you for the update.
Have a good evening.
Okay. If there is someone here from Georgetown, please raise your hand. But I am going to move on to commissioner updates. Commissioner Roosevelt, would you like to start?
Sure. What order are we going in? I'm number 3.
It's the blocks on my screen. So
Okay, sure. Yeah.
sorry.
I think construction around Ward Circle has been completed, so that's nice. I'm sorry if that interfered with anyone. That was a Maryland Department of Transportation thing. I didn't know they even had, I didn't know they were even able to do that, but it was a bit annoying for a while. We're having a Spring Valley Park cleanup day on May 11th, starting around 9 a.m. I think if it rains, we'll do May 13th, but if you're interested in, caring for like the only park around here that is in my ANC and in our ANC that and it's going to be a great moment for the community. Please bring gloves, rakes, all of that stuff. There's a lot of litter, so I hope anyone who has time there can show up.
Can
That's about
people
it.
get community service hours for that?
I'd assume so. I can put the email of the like the Friends of Spring Valley Park who are organizing, and you can ask them. And I assume
Send
you
it to
can.
me. I have a
Yeah, sure.
teenager that needs hours,
Yep.
so. Okay, Commissioner Simkowitz, you're up.
I have nothing to report for Foxhall. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Davis.
You're on mute,
you're
Commissioner
unmuted.
Davis. There you are.
Actually, we still can't hear you. I love Zoom.
But how about now?
There you
Now
go.
you're back.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry, the system error.
Sorry.
Yeah, so regarding the intersection at Arizona and MacArthur, getting a handful of responses that's in my SMD. So you've been reaching out to me and to the commission as a whole and to our chair. I think given it's only been a few days, we've only gotten a trickle so far, but there are some pretty serious concerns. So I think it's worth discussion and forwarding these on to DDOT, just an individual and emails or notifications as opposed to an official letter. I think if we're going to do a letter as a commission, we might want to get kind of a mini task force together and come together maybe before the month is out to try and draft something. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, Tricia, or if other people have ideas. I think and honestly, my personal opinion, I don't think it's as bad as it was going to be. I thought it was going to be a lot worse. Doesn't seem like a lot of backup. There's been some complaints about where the lane shifting that's been going on, especially inbound. I personally almost got run over by a trash truck being in the right lane, trying to go straight down MacArthur inbound. And there's a dotted line that is supposed to force the middle lane to the left lane. And they just kind of kept going straight in the right lane. So that might involve what Officer McElway talked about, people taking time to get used to the new pattern. Who knows? It's just, I think everything's just a little bit tighter. It's a more kind of, anybody's ever been overseas to Europe or anything, it just kind of feels a little, the lanes are smaller and tighter and that kind of thing.
So I did want to mention for community concerns, if anyone is here in the audience and they are here for something that's on our official actions,
okay,
you should wait for your comments. But if you are here to give us feedback on the new protected bike lanes and the changes to the intersection, when we get to community concerns, we would like for you to raise your hand. But I'm just going to go ahead and respond to Commissioner Davis's thoughts. So we have told DDOT that the northbound approach on MacArthur, we need more markings to cue to drivers where to put their cars. I also want to point out that construction is not completely done. I'm 99% sure that those 2 parking spaces that are in front of the Wells Fargo are supposed to be removed. And if there's a clear shot for the right-hand turn lane to queue up, I think that we are going to see huge improvements at the intersection like we see in the other 3 approaches to the intersection.
Okay.
So I do think that there is some adjustment, but I do think that we could do some markings to cue the drivers where to go well before they get to the intersection. And
what was-
DOT, it has been made aware, and we have asked them to come out and address this.
Yeah, and I think you're on the email too. We got a suggestion for signage, which I think is a very good one, to kind of like, indicate 3 lanes now, because we've gone from 2 to 3, and in both directions to have those 3, similar to what you have if you're coming down Marlboro and taking a left onto MacArthur. There's that right lane that you can go left, straight left or right, which is confusing for people too, and kind of a tight turn if you've ever turned left from the right lane there. So I think the signage will help people a lot know where their lane is intended to go, because right now it's kind of guesswork with the dotted line, I suppose.
There was an accident on Canal yesterday with 2 completely disabled vehicles. So we couldn't really judge the intersection because
I got stuck in that traffic. That was bad.
we were backed up to Ward Circle.
Yeah.
But like in general, I've been monitoring the traffic and it seems to be working better, except for there's a little more work to be done northbound on MacArthur,
Okay.
in my opinion.
Right. And then just
go ahead.
another like concern from a constituent who lives in my SMD. It was actually, but it's about an issue that's outside of ours. It's not in 3D. So I don't know if it's something we should address here. It has to do with the intersection of Canal Road and Whitehurst and the cheaters that kind of get up to the front and then block traffic for the right-hand turn lane. They want to extend the flex posts back a little bit more. So when people commit, they're kind of forced onto Whitehurst. JP, you have something to say about that?
Yeah, we've been on this for years. I mean,
Okay.
I've lived here for a really long time, and it's always been an issue. And I think that they can't do that because it would just back traffic up at the entrance to Georgetown University if they were to extend it back there. But I mean, they've tried everything to stop that, and I get stopped in that line almost every day. In fact, usually twice a day.
Yeah.
So feel their pain, but there's not much we can do about that.
All right. Well, thank you for
The
that.
one thing I'd like to add on that is, I think we need better signage, because I also use that road to commute and get very frustrated I actually go off to the Whitehurst, and so I get aggravated with people who are blocking my straight shot down to the Whitehurst.
Sure.
I think that there needs to be signage that says just straight up, no access to Key Bridge from the right lane. Because I think the signage currently says Key Bridge second right or something to that effect. And so people and then once you get up very close to the Whitehurst, it says, Key Bridge middle lane, something along that line, but they're sitting in that right lane all the way up until that point. So
I think the most people that are cheating knowingly cheat. I feel bad for the people with out-of-state plates, meaning not Maryland or Virginia, but like Alaska or whatever, because I think those people honestly don't know, and signage might help them. But the vast majority of the cheaters know that they cheat, and they don't care, and it backs me and you up all the time.
Yeah, and I think it might be something that maybe we can take up with our friends on the Georgetown ANC to see if maybe we can ask for some police enforcement, because this is going back many years. But every once in a while, they'd station an officer there and he would just wave people on. If you were in the right lane, you were going on to the Whitehurst. And I'm hoping that, just as we talked earlier about Foxhall and Reservoir, if we have somebody there, changing behavior a little bit, maybe people will be more inclined to.
Well, that was kind of my next question. It's like, what do we do when the issue is outside of our ANC, but the concern came from somebody in my SMD. So
well, we're the most affected by that, Commissioner Davis.
I'm sorry.
We're the most affected by that, Commissioner Davis. So we do have the right to talk about this, and it's a matter of concern for every single person in our district. But we've been through this a million times, and I think I like to think of myself as being fairly well informed, and I don't see how we can fix that problem ever unless there's a Mario Kart thing where you can shoot a shell at somebody.
Right.
JP, you're talking about posts. Why can't there be more posts right there at the intersection of Whitehurst and
well, the problem with that is that if you back up the posts even further people coming out of Georgetown University and making a left turn onto Canal Road, and want to go in one of those directions, I think that they would not be able to get over because
No,
of
I'm
those.
not
And I think it
talking
would,
about there, I'm talking about at the actual intersection where, at the very end, where people should be going on to Whitehurst, and said they edge into traffic to the left. And
no, I know what you're talking about. I think that they've made them as back as far as they can, because it would just back it up even more if they extended it. And maybe Commissioner Nowak has another suggestion, but you know, I've thought of that as well, and I think it would be a disaster for everybody.
I don't know.
I think they had them. There was a period of time where those stanchions were there, the flexible ones, and they pulled them out. And perhaps it is because of what JP is saying, that too many, you know, people were getting blocked up further back. But I think it's worth talking to DDOT. Thank you, Mr. Walker. I see your comment. I think we reach out to DDOT again and just say this is, you know, continues to be an issue. And now that we're starting to get back to clearly not pre-COVID traffic, but more than we've seen in a while, people are going back into the office. It's an annoyance again. It's becoming a bigger annoyance than it has been for the past couple of years.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everybody.
Commissioner
Thank you.
Davis, did you have anything else on
No,
your
that's
list?
it. Thank you very much. Thanks, everybody.
I'm going to go next because I'm in the next on my matrix here. I wanted to flag for the commission and the neighbors in the audience that I had taken the MacArthur High School funding off the agenda because there are some updates. Just to recap, the city has decided to put MacArthur High School at the old Georgetown Day School. And we were told when we were doing the community working groups that we would have an auditorium and a high school for 1,000 kids. We now know that the building is going to max out at 800, which is fine. But DCPS, through the school improvement team, have told us that there is not going to be a cafeteria that can have one lunch for 800 kids, nor is there going to be an auditorium. This has caused a significant uproar. And yesterday, Councilmember Freeman's office announced that DCPS is holding a meeting virtually next Tuesday with the councilman hosting, and neighbors are going to be invited, and they're going to explain to us what their vision is for the high school without any of these amenities. I do not consider this done. I don't consider these decisions final at this point, but I don't know. And so we will probably be voting on something next meeting at the beginning of June because it won't be too late. But there are a lot of people within the Ward 3 Education Network and the SIT who are extremely focused on this. I would also like to say that the Foxhall Citizens Community Association, the Palisades Community Association, and the ANC3D are all on the same page when we say we would like to get this high school to be the best high school in the city. We are here ready and waiting. People will be delighted to know that Mr. Bob Avery and I have been in communication with each other. I've been in communication with the PCA. We are all working together. And we are a force unto ourselves, but when we are all working together, I think we can be a really powerful voice. So I would like to just let everyone know that that's happening behind the scenes. That's all I have today.
Thank you, Chairperson Duncan. It's good to see that Foxhall and the Palisades are finally, after a long time, working together.
Commissioner Elkins, did you have an update?
Yes, I do. Well, yes, I want to add my thanks for the two associations and getting together on this project. Hopefully make some difference. Now, with regard to the Transportation Committee, we will be meeting in May. The date has not been set, but you will find that on our website when the date is set, and we will post it in the listservs. And neighbors are always welcome. that's all I have, Madam Chairman.
Commissioner Nowak, did you have anything?
Just quickly, and it actually is relevant to the MacArthur High School, although in its nascent stages. One of the other challenges facing the high school is lack of regulation size field space for various sports. There is a field right up the road that is owned by St. Patrick's today. St. Patrick's, I approached them as their commissioner and said, would you be willing, as part of being a good neighbor, to look at renting space to MacArthur? And their answer was, absolutely, we'd be happy to enter into discussions about it. However, it should be noted that the ANC, as part of our agreement to build the field, said that we could not have any third-party use thereof. So I said that it's in the nascent stages. I expect that this will build over the next couple of months, but they are amenable to having discussions on the topic.
Commissioner Simcoe?
Commissioner Nowak, thank you very much for taking the lead on that. I've tried to do that for 4 years now, and that's the answer that I've always been given, which I think is the truthful answer. However, I think the burden is on us to change that status quo and allow them to be able to rent the field to outside people, because that field, as everyone knows, is vacant almost the whole time. You never see people there.
Absolutely. And I think one of the reasons why it's getting a little bit of traction now is there's been some changes in the school administration, in the church administration as the governing body. And so they are now happy to enter into those discussions where perhaps the prior folks in charge were not. So I think we have a great opportunity to work together, and we'll figure it out. So it's more to come, more to come.
Commissioner Elkins?
I hope we can work something out, but I wonder whether the ANC that set that requirement was us or whether it was 3B. I think it's probably their neighbors who care most about it rather than ours. And so that may complicate it. But JP, you may know.
Yeah, Commissioner Elkins, if there is any problems with the use of the school, it's with the Colony Hill neighborhood. However, I've been to their meetings whenever they invite me, and I believe that their concerns, while meritful, aren't necessarily against the use during regular hours. It's their problem is lights that are not there currently, and noise, which if the game is going on at 3 o'clock or 6 o'clock, I don't think it's going to be a big deal.
Yeah,
so I hope that addresses Commissioner Elkins' question.
I do think we do need to consult with 3B, because I do remember that they have been concerned in the past. I know the geography well enough to know whether that's really a serious problem or not.
Yeah. And the school told me that there were some concerns about parking, because there really is very little parking available. And I said that would have to be part of any agreement that's reached with anybody else, that you just, maybe you can have a bus or two. I mean, that roundabout at the top of the field is really meant just for visiting team buses. It's not meant for other automobile parking. So that would just have to be part of the deal.
I know Commissioner Horn is away, but did you have any updates?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, hear you perfectly. Go ahead.
I don't have any updates. My son is receiving a master's degree at the University of Utah in Salt Lake City. I'm in Salt Lake City. There's an event that starts shortly, so I'm afraid I have to leave. And that's my story.
Thank you.
Go
Enjoy.
with our congratulations.
Yes, congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, so let the record show we are going to have 6 commissioners, and Commissioner Horn will be leaving us shortly. Is there anyone in the community who is here to discuss something other than the official items on the agenda? You can go ahead and raise your hand, but right now I am going to introduce our discussion for the night. Mr. Steve Walker is with the Executive Office of the Mayor, And we are honored to have you, and we are going to hand it over to you to discuss some of the budget items. And I would like to remind our neighbors who are here that we are in budget season. The mayor has presented her budget to the council. The council is having hearings. It'll go through all these machinations and negotiations, and then eventually the council will vote and the mayor will sign, and it will be official. And I will hand it over to you, Mr. Walker.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Can you hear me okay?
You're perfect.
Perfect. Thanks so much for having me this evening. Again, I'll introduce myself. I'm Steve Walker. I have the honor of serving as Deputy Chief of Staff to Mayor Muriel Bowser, and also Director of the Mayor's Office of Talent and Appointments. And I'll briefly talk about the budget. There is a deck that I'll be looking at that I believe that Matthew, if he hasn't already, he will put it in the chat for additional background for you. There's also a plethora of information about the mayor's budget on budget.dc.gov, which includes our entire process for the budget. The mayor hosted a series of budget engagement forums in February and March that led to her submitting a budget to the council on April 3rd. As your chair mentioned, the council has had a series of hearings with district government agencies. In fact, the executive office of the mayor had our hearing today. Those will conclude this week. The council will then have a couple of working sessions. The first vote on the budget should be on May 28th, and the second vote on June 2nd. So as the mayor said when she presented the budget, this has been the toughest budget that she's had to introduce during her tenure, her three-term tenure as mayor. But we still have a bunch of things that we can be proud of. As Matthew mentioned earlier, we have data that shows that crime is down. We know that the District of Columbia is still the #1 city for tech careers. We know that tourism and the population and public school enrollment is growing. We've been seeing some rebounds from the 2020 COVID that we experienced. And the district has a AAA bond running. Notwithstanding that, however, we know that there is a reality for this year's budget. We have significantly increasing costs. If you look at some of the things like WMATA, which has a $928 million fiscal cliff, we know that we still have to do a lot of investments for district retirement. We know there are also expiring one-time funds. The district received billions of dollars from the ARPA funds that are going away this year. And so we know that the American Rescue Plan Act funding that will expire will include $2.3 billion in ARPA funds for recovery, $618 million for education, and $418 million in rental assistance. We also know that there's been slowed revenue growth in the district. And so when you took slowing from as low as 2% per year, when you take all these factors into consideration, the budget team and the mayor had to come up with a $4 billion gap to in resources and revenue expenditures between now and fiscal year 29. So as a result, the mayor's budget is focused on several guiding principles, and that is that we maintain and enhance core services that preserve investments and protect health and safety, that we prioritize programs that with a track record of success and advance equity, which are very important to the administration, and that we reset spending and it aligns those resources with long-term fiscal stability and focus on spending on catalytic investments with a very specific focus on 3 areas: public safety, downtown, and education. And so this year's budget, in addition to some shared sacrifices that many district agencies have had to make, and some other reductions that the mayor made to submit a balanced budget to the council, we are going to be focused on those 3 priority areas. So in the area of public safety, that will include $8.7 million for 40 new community service officers and civilian positions at MPD, which will free up our officers to do crime fighting tasks. It will also preserve investments in prevention, like $12.5 million to maintain and expand funding for violence interruption and pathways programs across the district, and also improve our readiness, response, and resilience. For example, $4.8 million in life-saving equipment for our fire and emergency management services agency. And so those are just some examples in our public safety focus. When it comes to downtown, we know that we've got to fill the space, change the space, and bring people downtown. So the investments that the mayor is making in this year's budget include $515 million for the capital for Chinatown renovation revitalization project, which includes support to the sports arena, the streetscape, and public space activations. It also includes $7 million to fully implement the business and entrepreneurship program. And when we look at changing this space, $64 million in additional permanent supportive housing and shelter space on the site of existing federal city shelter. We've got to bring people back downtown, so the budget also includes $32 million in tourism grants and marketing. I mentioned that education being the third priority, and so we've got to accelerate learning in ways that include $4.8 million for high-impact tutoring, which is a proven method of increasing education for our most vulnerable learners, building on a teacher oasis. And this year, the budget will include $5 million to upgrade the audiovisual equipment and auditoriums and large spaces in our schools. We've got to make sure we're ensuring the safety and well-being of our youth. So in addition to a new bill that the mayor has proposed recently, this year's budget is going to have $1.9 million to continue nutrition and food programs throughout DC public schools. We've got to make sure we're continuing to reimagine the high school experience. And so this year's proposed budget has $5 million to support Advanced Technical Center in Ward 5. And then there are other key investments that the mayor will continue to make, whether it's housing and economic development. We know the importance of having affordable housing for our district residents. And so the mayor's budget next year, the next fiscal year, will propose $7 million for great streets and transforming emerging corridors into thriving and inviting neighborhood centers across the district. We will also make investments in recreation and libraries across the district, including $663,000 to enhance security and mental health services throughout the public library system. And the budget also has very specific ward-by-ward investments. You can find all this information at budget.dc.gov. But a couple of examples, I know we talked about MacArthur High School a little bit ago. In addition to that $74 million to modernize the high school, MacArthur and others, it will have $66 million to modernize the University District of Columbia, including $1 million for planning and preliminary design for new student housing. Transportation, we know, is critically important across the district, especially in Ward 3. So one of the Ward 3 investments that I will highlight will be $26 million for new streetscape improvements along Connecticut Avenue. So that's just a snapshot of the mayor's FY25 budget. As mentioned at the beginning, we are near the end of the budget hearings that are going through the council. And then we will soon get to those two votes that I mentioned on May 29th and June 12th. So there's still time for everyone who is listening today to provide your thoughts and feedback on your budget priorities through the council. Follow along, look at budget.dc.gov again, where we'll have information on the mayor's proposal, but make sure you're sharing your thoughts and opinions with members of the council who will vote on a final budget that hopefully contains many of these priorities that the mayor have outlined. I also want to make sure I give a great shout out to Matthew Barclay, our Mayor's Office of Community Relations and Services liaison for Ward 3, who's done a fantastic job. And just as I did early in the chat, please continue to send issues and challenges to him. He is a problem solver and an advocate for Ward 3, and we want to make sure we're doing our best to make sure he and the rest of the district are your representatives where we can be. So, Madam Chair, I'll turn it over and attempt to answer as many questions as you have time for.
Okay, I'm going to allow anyone who has a question to raise your hand, but I am going to give some feedback to double down on what I already said about extra funding for MacArthur High School to make that a high school. This ANC is very rarely united. So when I say that we are all united behind making this school the best that it can be, it cannot be understated. So that's my highest priority at this point. So I'd like you to take that information back.
Can I ask a question? I heard you say there was going to be a meeting with DCPS. Do you know who's going to be in that meeting?
So I do not know. I know Councilmember Fruman. I was told this last night, and at the time it was not known. I think DCPS had agreed to do it. So I don't know what level that would have been, but I would like it the highest level possible. Thank you. Thank you. I know this is a lot of work. I see no other questions. So Commissioner Nowak, go ahead.
Yeah, it's less a question than a comment, Mr. Walker. One of the things that I think the district CFO's office is well known for is overly conservative budget estimates and then surpluses that become a slush fund. So what can you tell us that will reassure us that these doom and gloom budget estimates are in fact predicated on data and will result in a balanced budget as opposed to one that is, or actuals that resemble the budget as opposed to a happy windfall this time next year?
That's a very good question. And I know the mayor has stated several times publicly that she thought some of the estimates from the chief financial officer, which all of you know is independent, might be slightly conservative. And you might have been aware of some discussions that happened in the early part of the budget process that impacted the delivery date. And so the chief financial officer's office is responsible for both forecasting the budget and certifying the budget when submitted by the mayor. And we trust the judgment that they have in making sure that they're thinking both long-term and strategically about what's best for the district. And I hear you, and we want to make sure that also is based on the best available data so that we can make sure we're setting priorities. Because if we are not in the beginning of the budget process is the best time to make those investments, whether it's in schools, whether it's in roads, whether it's in housing. The best time to make those investments is when the budget is approved, when the fiscal year begins, as opposed to doing so, the last quarter. So definitely hear you and agree that we want to make sure that we're making the best decisions as the budget moves through the process.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Commissioner Elkins?
Just one comment for future years. I would say that I think the budget is not very user-friendly for those of us who don't like to invest hours and hours in studying tables. Many times we just can't find the detail that we want to know about the programs we care about. I don't know how the council members feel about it, but to the extent that we want to participate in, and do in fact participate in these hearings, it's difficult for us to really be very specific. I was asked questions like, well, exactly how many more people do you think that they should hire for X, Y, and Z? And I had to say, I can't tell from the mayor's budget. So to the extent that the mayor, and I trust she does, wants to have citizen input, it would be helpful if some of the favorite programs get described well enough that people can actually make a comment about whether the budget is big enough or too big or whatever. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And it's one of the reasons that we have budget.dc.gov, and I'll take that back as well for that sort of feedback. And we do try to put these fact sheets and one-pagers that are both ward specific and issue specific. And so you'll be able to find education, healthcare, health and human services, planning and economic development fact sheets that might take it more specific than the table. But definitely hear you, and we'll make sure as we continue to perfect this process that we try to make the information as user-friendly as possible.
I might just add you might pick up some of the insight from the oversight hearings about what people really care about, and then I know it's sort of late in the game at that point, but to try to add information about the things that citizens have taken the time to actually come into oversight hearings and say, I'm unhappy with such and such.
Thank you.
Commissioner Simkowitz?
Hi, my name is JP Simkowitz. I'm the commissioner for the Foxhall area, and along with ANC3D, which is Georgetown, we've been fighting to get funding for the trolley trestle trail from the Palisades into Georgetown. And that is increasingly urgent because WMATA, who owns the final bridge over the national park, wants to tear down the bridge. And if they tear down the bridge, the National Park Service apparently will no longer allow us to build a new bridge there. So that is a budget priority for my district. And I believe we have voted on this several times here in our ANC. And I know that the other Georgetown ANC has as well. So please take that back to the mayor and ask her to insert that into the budget.
Thank you. Can you tell me the Georgetown ANC again? Did you say 2C?
2E is an elephant.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Davis?
Yeah, in reference to Commissioner Elkins mentioned, trying to find I guess some more information from the budget, and it's a little bit easier to find out. I was just taking a quick look at the transmittal letter. Is that kind of like should that be considered kind of a snapshot of the budget, like the best way to get kind of a 5-minute understanding of how money's being spent?
Yes, and that's available on budget.dc.gov, and that's basically the mayor's kind of snapshot and overview of what's in the budget that she's proposed to the council.
Okay.
You will also find, if you give time, the link where the mayor presented the budget to the council, and council members ask her a number of questions. And then again, the deck that she presented is there as well.
Okay, so if I would just for example, I'm just curious, if I were to add up all the numbers in the transmittal letter, would that come out to the total budget? So it's pretty exhaustive, in other words.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Thank you.
Sure.
Without any further hands raised, I'm going to thank you, and we shall see you off. Thanks for coming.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Okay, we are moving on to our official actions. The first item is a BZA special exception for 511 Sherrier Place. Commissioner Horn is not here, so I am going to do this. The motion on the floor is to approve this letter in support of the special exception for the back porch. Is there a second? Commissioner Nowak seconds the motion. Did everyone have a chance to read the letter? I do believe that there is someone here who could answer questions if we have them, but it's my understanding that this is a small thing and the neighbors have all agreed. Seeing no comments, all those in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Up next is Wesley Seminary filing. I'm going to go ahead and introduce a motion, and then we will have a little bit of discussion because I think it's very important for the commissioners to know what we're voting on. And I also see that there are neighbors who are very interested in this topic. So the motion on the floor is to send our response on the Wesley Seminary filing to the Zoning Commission tomorrow. Is there a second? Commissioner Elkins seconds the motion. So first up, I am going to hand this over to Mr. David McAllister, probably Dr. McAllister, I'm sorry, and Mr. Pat Brown. They are going to tell us the latest and greatest of what is happening with this project that we have been considering for over 2 years.
Thank you, Commissioner. Actually, we've been discussing this project for nearly 6 years. But let me quickly say that we're looking forward to our commencement on Monday at the Washington National Cathedral, and where we'll be graduating students from the district, 20 other states, and 20 foreign countries. I can report that our master's enrollment turned up this year after several years of decline, and that the 2 dorms which we occupy are at full capacity and are projected to be for the fall. The applications look strong. We welcome neighbors for the second time to Spring in the Valley on Saturday, Saturday, May 18th, which is a great time for family and for the whole community. And I'd be happy to speak to anything else about Wesley and what's going on here. But I think instead I want to thank the commissioners of 3D for their ongoing support, even as we move to needing to achieve agreement from both 3D and 3E. I've appreciated the ongoing relationship with 3D. In our seminary community, we have a phrase that we hold each other close and hold each other accountable. And that's what this commission has done, and I appreciate that. What you will hear from Pat Brown is the latest, greatest submission to try to meet the interests and concerns of everyone on both ANCs. So maybe with that, I turn over to Pat.
Thank you. Steve Karche, if we could pull up the PowerPoint, I'd like to touch a couple places there. I'm Pat Brown. I'm a neighbor as well as Wesley's Land Use Council for seems like 20 years now.
If I could get permission to share.
I think you have it now.
Yes, thank you.
If you go to page 2, one
more, 2,
one up.
Yes.
I just David referred to Spring in the Valley. I tried to put this in the chat, but I wasn't technically capable of doing it, but just gives you an idea of what's planned for May 18th. Next slide. And what I'd like to do is Wesley filed a submission April 25th to the Zoning Commission, and the parties to the proceeding, which include the ANCs and various organizations who are established parties, have a chance to respond. And then on May 9th, the Zoning Commission will discuss our proposal. And I want to focus, it is a proposal. What we propose to do, next slide, the kind of the central new element to the proposal is really at the urging of ANC3E to not provide student affordable housing on the campus, but instead to take those resources in an equivalent manner and use that to support targeted offsite inclusionary zoning in Ward 3. In order to accomplish that, the zoning regulations, one, really never envisioned student affordable housing, and did not also envision a situation where an IZ requirement would be transferred to offsite in its entirety. So we've asked for an exemption from the IZ requirement with the follow-on that the equivalent amount of IZ housing, both in the size of the number of units and the affordability, would be supported, and in this case, focused in on Ward 3. The approximate value of that is about $8 million. That's an estimate, depending on the circumstances of what's required to provide the level of IZ that was required. And we went to work looking for a home for this contribution, and we've had a great deal of support from ANC3D and others. And we've identified, and we put this in our filing, a number of opportunities. Top of the list is a site in Tenleytown that would convert an existing commercial use to residential only, and would provide IZ in that new residential building. This property is about to go into contract and hopefully close and start the process before the end of the year. So that's a promising opportunity. Another is 5225 Connecticut Avenue. It's an existing 1960 era building that currently does not have any IZ, and its renovation would not require any IZ. So we would be looking to contribute funds to create otherwise non-existent IZ units in a newly renovated building. This site is important. No existing tenants would be displaced, and under a TOPA agreement, tenants who want to return to the building after the renovation, which will be substantial, can come back at their prior rent levels. We also looked at a number of opportunities to fund revolving loan funds, which would provide capital to acquire and develop affordable housing projects, again, focused in Ward 3. And there are at least 2 affordable housing provider companies that are interested in working with us. So those are promising options with a longer horizon to actually producing the units, but would be money to make projects happen. And then we're continuing to look at other opportunities that may exist. And the text amendment to make this happen is simple. It's here, but it would exempt the dormitory building that is being built on the Wesley campus. It would exempt it from IZ if approved by the zoning commission. And then tied to that, of course, would be the offsite IZ contribution. Next slide. And then the other text amendment is simply to clarify, again, only for this site and for this proposed use, that this dormitory housing Wesley and AU students would not be considered a commercial activity if approved by the zoning commission as part of a campus plan process. And next slide. Based on the text amendments offered, we would proceed on a campus plan only, which is currently pending before the zoning commission. It would require further processing of the new dorm as a second phase, and would allow the withdrawal of the PUD application. Having said that, the 4 corners of the plan that we've been presenting for quite some time would not change, with 2 caveats. One, again, there's been a request from ANC3D that we're looking to comply with to reduce the level of underground parking in the garage by about 26%. And it would provide a total of 299 parking spaces on the campus, 268 in the garage, and 31 existing surface spaces. We think that, one, exceeds any requirement, and two, exceeds the level necessary. But having said that, we're looking and have discussed with ANC3D and to some extent 3E how to enhance the off-campus parking enforcement provisions that we've already provided. And then the last element, again, we've been requested by our neighbors on University Avenue to consider how we plan to restrict vehicular traffic in and out of the University Avenue entrance. And then how do we implement that? And also, how do we control pedestrian traffic on using the University Avenue exit? And we've come up with a schematic plan for a fence and gate. The gate for the vehicles would be triggered by motion of the vehicles to allow them in and out, and also emergency vehicles, and then a key card operated pedestrian gate is also considered. We presented that to the University Avenue neighbors, and we'll discuss that further with them and get their input on that, and then also the input from DDOT and the fire department going forward. Going back to what we filed on the 25th, it's a proposal. None of it is self-executing. It's a proposal we made to the Zoning Commission. With their feedback, we will then go about filing the various documents that are needed to implement the proposal, all of which would be subject to the normal requirements, public notice, and participation by all the parties, and ultimately public hearings. So while we've offered a proposal, nothing definitive is going to occur on May 9th, other than feedback from the Zoning Commission. I'll stop there and allow
Thank
questions.
you very much. I'm just going to dive right in with some questions. Who decides if the $8 million that you have for IZ is adequate?
Ultimately, the Zoning Commission, the DHCD, and the parties offering the money, which was Wesley and their partner, and those receiving it.
Okay, so the city's going to run some kind of analysis and
Yeah.
make a recommendation to the Zoning Commission. Okay. And then are you going to need to find a home for that those IZ dollars before this gets finally approved? Do you think?
That's possible. In which case we'd have to set up some system to guarantee that the money is in a lockbox or escrowed in some way, to be.
So the Zoning Commission will probably tell you what you needed to do there also.
Yeah.
I imagine.
And to be honest, ANC3E and this ANC, I think would be, and others would have a seat at the table, figuring out the best way to handle that, so that there's assurances that what's being offered is there and would be provided to the right place at the right time.
Okay. And for the commissioners who are new to the Zoning Commission, please remember that all of our institutions, whether it's a hospital or school or university or seminary, has a campus plan that is officially done through the Zoning Commission, and they have to be updated and you can make changes. And originally for this building, Wesley was going through the PUD. I think it's a planned unit development. That has now been scrapped. And this is going to be a text amendment to change the text of the zoning regulations so that Wesley will then be able to do this building under the campus plan. I just wanted to get that. All right, Commissioner Simkowitz, you're up.
I've got a couple questions. Why reduce the parking spaces if they're all underground?
The feeling was that it was more, one, it was more parking that was needed, and two, that you create more parking, you create more traffic.
But I mean, people have to go to the campus and they might not have cars, so why would anybody decrease? I've never heard of anybody decreasing the number of parking spaces in a building before.
Well, I mean, certainly the current philosophy, whether it's DDOT or others, is less parking, not more. Again, the goal being to get people out of cars and get them to alternative means of transport. I mean, this project has a rather robust TDM, traffic demand management program, that would be in place as well. Certainly, the site's well served by public transportation. You've got the AU shuttle to Tenley. So the reliance on cars is reduced. It's not eliminated. And Wesley needs to be able to provide parking for its students, many of which are commuters, and staff, as well as the residents of this building, which will be Wesley and AU students.
I mean, my big fear is that these people are going to park in the neighborhood, and the neighbors aren't going to be happy with this.
I would like to just chime in that we are laser focused on that. They're not going to be able to get a residential parking permit. And I would also like to add that whole area around Ward Circle is the densest part of our entire ward. And the vast majority of people who live over there do not have cars. They just don't.
I've got
right now, AU, I was at last spring when I was at their transportation meeting. They said that they were only using 60% of the available parking on their campus at any given time. Like, they're overparked.
So I've got a couple more questions. Why should this building not be required to have IZ units on site?
Two things. One, the zoning regulations never envisioned a student dormitory being required to provide IZ. The city is not set up in any shape or form to provide student-only, affordable housing tenants. It's so that when we offered to provide a privately administered affordable housing program for students only in this building, DHCD was cooperating, but others expressed concerns that, one, it wasn't workable, and two, the real need was not for affordable student housing, but to provide Ward 3 affordable housing, where Ward 3 has lagged behind the rest of the city.
Would this be the only building in DC that does not have to have IZ units?
Well, there are places in the city where IZ is not required. You go to 5225 Connecticut Avenue, it's an existing building. It's going to be renovated from top to bottom, but it's not new construction, and therefore no IZs required. So it's a little, we've always been in a little bit of a gray area, having to do with a student dormitory on one campus housing students from two schools. And that created an anomaly that we had to deal with.
And Commissioner Simkowitz, the other buildings that have no IZ required would be the other dorms within Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
But this began right at the beginning of our campus plan, when we affirmed our institution support of IZ as a concept. and as a necessary element in urban planning. So that's why we've always said we're very supportive of IZ and why we originally proposed it in this building. Now what we're saying is we will still participate in the funding of IZ units in Ward 3 in some other way in order to get around some of the regulatory issues and the concerns that other neighbors have voiced.
But couldn't there be a student of limited means that wants to go to either AU or the seminary, and that student would benefit from the IZ on site at this building?
Well, all of the Wesley students have limited needs. They're seminary students, and we supply exactly that subsidy for those students. And I suspect the same would be true of American University.
Can I chime in here, Commissioner Simkowitz? ANC3E is the one who's really driving this. They do not want the IZ dollars going to this building because they think that most of the students there are going to be American University and they're transient and they are not DC residents. So they are adamant that the IZ dollars goes to another place in Ward 3 that is going to benefit actual affordable housing for DC residents. I'm just putting that out there because I listened to all their meetings and it's a non-negotiable stance for them.
Thank you.
Commissioner Roosevelt?
Yeah, I think the concerns about IZ are like fair, but I do think like AU does have a pretty robust financial aid program. So I think that this probably wouldn't like having inclusionary zoning for AU students is probably unnecessary and the impact would be greater in other parts of the community. What I'm wondering is like, what is the restriction on how close to Wesley the IZ units have to be? Like, do they have to be in the same neighborhood? Do they have to just be in the same ward? What are the restrictions on where the IZ you're providing is going to be?
It's not a restriction so much as it's a concept that we're proposing, and that is within Ward 3. We're not saying how close to Wesley, because frankly, there are limited options.
Mhm.
And we've done a lot of digging to try to find the possibilities.
Okay, and then going back to the parking issue, how many parking spaces do you offer right now?
Oh, I was afraid I was going to get this question. My files are locked out here at the house. Pat, do you know the number?
When you say currently on the campus now,
On the campus right now for students and staff,
I believe the number is 178. In
it's
that
107.
I was going to say
178 spaces.
174, so it's right in that ballpark.
Yeah. Now,
And most of your students are commuters?
Yes, they are now. Prior to COVID, there were more residents, and the residents are now filling up again. But I believe we're never going to return to the number of the total number of parking needs that we had pre-COVID. I think it's going to go up, but it's not going to return. So it's important to say that the parking space numbers that appeared that we are now revising are really pre-COVID parking space numbers. And so a lot has gone into calculating whether this desire to reduce the parking on the part of some people is going to meet the need. And our partner Landmark has done that calculation and believes it to be true.
And so the current, you're offering 278 with the plan right now, is that right?
Stephen?
299.
9 total.
Okay. I will say with the.
Could I
with the
interject, please?
Yeah, sure.
Of the 174 that exists now, approximately 140 of them are in the surface parking lot, which is where the new building will go. So we're going to eliminate 140 and come back to provide a total of 299. So
that'll be the total of both the ones that are existing that won't be
Correct.
taken away and the new ones. Okay. And how do you like if you're there on campus? I don't walk around Wesley Seminary campus very often, but do you see that all the parking spaces are being used normally, or
No.
do you have a lot of extra parking?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, I think that like the thing with AU students is that the campus right now and like where the new hall will be if they all end up living on the place that you're building is that like they have like 4 bus lines, they have the AU shuttle, I know many AU students, and I think I only know one with a car. So I
Yeah.
do think that there is a danger of, if you offer a lot more parking than is necessary, you're going to be increasing demand for parking that otherwise wouldn't be there. Like, you're going to have AU students bringing their car who otherwise probably shouldn't, and would probably like just lead to an increase in traffic and pollution and congestion in our neighborhood when they have like pretty reliable options for public transit. So I do think the option, the argument for reducing the parking from ANC3E is pretty strong.
Commissioner Roosevelt, why do you determine what these students' needs are for transportation? When I went to Georgetown, I had a job in the state of Maryland, and you couldn't get there on public transportation. It was impossible.
I mean, I'm a college student right now, and I don't feel I need a car. And our family lives 4 blocks down from AU, and we don't have a car.
Well,
And
good for you, but
we
a
make
lot of
do.
students don't have that option. You know, they work in other places.
Do you really think there are a lot of students at AU who work in like far out in Maryland?
Well, they might. I mean, you know, we live in a jurisdiction that is surrounded by a lot of other jurisdictions, and you can't always get there.
Also,
you
if
can't
you went
always get to
like,
Fairfax, Virginia,
the public
or
transport
Upper
options
Marlboro,
in
Maryland.
Georgetown are worse than the public transit options at that corner of Ward Circle. You can get right onto the metro immediately if you take the AU shuttle. Like, AU has existing transportation infrastructure for students. That's all I'll say. I do think that like reducing the parking is not a bad idea at all, contrary to some other commissioners' concerns.
Can I ask a question about the fence?
The University
Yeah.
Avenue fence, yes.
Is the purpose of that to keep cars out, or is that going to be preventing? Because I will admit, I walk over there with my dog and I cut across the big green field because it's so lovely. Like, what is
It's to
this
keep
fence
you
for?
out. Right?
No, I don't want that.
I think I have that question too, because you talked about it having card key access. So is that saying that the community is no longer welcome onto the campus?
No, it's not saying that at all. The community remains very welcome on the campus. My sense is those who have advocated for the fence want to reduce the pedestrian traffic going the other way.
I just have this feeling that the students, if once they get off the campus, they're going to head towards Ward Circle. Commissioner Elkins?
Well, that's the point I want to make. It seems to me coming off your campus, I don't see very many of them wanting to walk into the neighborhood. That driveway, am I correct, empties almost directly across from green space.
There is a house there, but
there is
then
one house. I think Josie lives there, so she should speak up. I'm not, but otherwise they're walking what 100 yards to back up to MacArthur Boulevard and then going either north or south. Probably going south to the shopping center and Compass Coffee and pizza and all that. I'm having trouble understanding why these students are detrimental to the neighborhood for that 100 yards.
I would like to hear from neighbors who, so they might be able to explain to us the idea behind this fence. Commissioner Roosevelt?
Yeah, wait, can we be clear about whether or not it's a key card locked fence, or what do you need to do to get in? Is it going to be like the fence on like Horseman Elementary's playground, or are we looking at something a lot more strong than that?
Well, I mean, the specifics haven't been finalized, but the purpose, I mean, the purpose of the vehicular barrier is to basically enforce our proffer to limit vehicles accessing.
But it seems like it would also limit people.
Which can be done, and the gate is geared toward pedestrians.
Wait, so is your main goal with the fence to reduce vehicles from going into the neighborhood?
It's a twofold. One, the gate, the fence is there to enforce the condition that we've agreed to limit vehicles entering and exiting at University Avenue, except for limited service and emergency vehicles. We've made that commitment going back for probably 3 years now. So across the roadway surface, we're enforcing that condition in a way that we think is workable. The new element is the request to provide some control over pedestrian access.
For full disclosure to the commission, 3E is also really annoyed that the cars aren't coming in and out of the University Avenue entrance, and that we are pushing the vehicles onto Massachusetts Avenue. In fact, Catherine, or I'm sorry, Mr. Karchak, can you bring up the site map again?
If I could share.
Hopefully we'll get you sharing here. Okay, so right now, the way, if you come out the Massachusetts Avenue driveway there, you can only turn right. So 3E is super annoyed that all of the cars leaving the site are going to have to go up and go around Ward Circle if they want to go back to Maryland. But under this application, and chime in, Pat, if I'm not saying this right, they are requesting that DDOT allow for left turns there coming out onto Massachusetts Avenue.
We've included that request as part of our proposal.
Right, but it hasn't been, approved. And 3E has they were very, very upset that all of the traffic was going to be pushed onto Massachusetts Avenue and have to make that loop up to Ward Circle when there's a perfectly good entrance here onto University where they are able, I guess you're sort of able to make a left here because there's this weird circle. Is that what happens now if you want to make a left?
Yes.
Okay. So that is something that they are annoyed about. And my brain is in 1,000 different directions. Commissioner Elkins, are we addressing that in our letter? Did we say anything
Yes,
about
we are. No, let's see. Well, yes, we are. We essentially say that we believe that having vehicles go out on Massachusetts Avenue makes good engineering sense because it puts it onto a major artery instead of onto a neighborhood street.
Yeah, so we say that in our letter, so the commission should know that that is what we have. Now would be a good time to say if you agreed or not.
Has
And then
DDOT made any comment on whether or not that's feasible?
the left-hand turn.
Yeah.
I don't know. Pat, have they said anything?
They didn't make a final determination, but they were willing to consider it, focusing in on off-peak hours.
Yeah, because I mean, Mass Ave gets pretty clogged. Like people go pretty fast there when it's not congested, and otherwise it's pretty congested. And I'm not sure if like that can actually happen. I'm not sure if they can safely make a left turn there, honestly.
It depends on what time of day it is. I've
This is
come out
true,
of
yeah.
that plenty of times in off peak, and it's not a problem. The other question was some sort of signal control, and that was not getting a whole lot of support from DDOT, given
That's unfortunate.
The logistics of this block and the existing.
I think people should remember too that American University has a light right up the hill. So if you have a light somewhere, sometimes you can get stacking. I would like to leave it up to DDOT to make that decision personally. And we sort of have softly indicated that in our letter, I think. In our letter, I really like walking through this campus. So we have in there that we think it's better for the neighbors to be able to access the campus. That is also in our letter. So we should hear comments on that too. Commissioner Nowak?
Yeah, my comment actually has to do with the fence. I think perhaps a reasonable compromise would be to have the fence and have a gate, but just not have it be card access. If the idea is that this will prevent students from entering, from anywhere onto the campus willy-nilly onto university, then so be it. They can be funneled through a gate, but I think that, it seems rather unwelcoming to have it be card access.
Okay, let's, we can stop sharing the plan, but it seems like everybody understands. Does anyone have any other questions, and do any neighbors want to say anything? Mr. Clarkson.
Yeah, thanks so much. First question for Pat, is this fence, I know Dennis Paul and other University Avenue neighbors have publicly advocated for this specific fence, the same thing previously. It might have been over a year ago. I'll pull the transcript for everyone, but it's on the record. But is this proposal been submitted to the zoning commission already?
We've referenced it. We have not submitted this picture because it hasn't been vetted by everybody who should participate in that discussion before we submit it.
So it's the proposal to build a fence it was included in your April 25th submission to the zoning commission. It was. Okay. I missed it. So just, I want to go to the letter. It said, and by the way, William Clarkson, Spring Valley Neighborhood Association. I live on Sedgwick Street, 3 blocks from Wesley. Looking forward to having everyone come to Spring in the Valley. It's going to be a great event. To the letter. The last paragraph of the draft ANC letter says, while such a fence would limit student intrusion into the neighborhood, it would also exclude neighbors from the beautiful grounds which represent the largest area of green space in the neighborhood. I can't imagine, and I'm pretty confident, that this ANC, the commissioners on this ANC, don't view students who live next door, who consider us neighbors, they're in our neighborhood, it's part of their neighborhood, as an intrusion to walking on a public street that, by the way, Wesley is committed to building a sidewalk on University Avenue that goes to Mass Ave. So I just think that language is pretty offensive, actually. As a homeowner, a property owner living 3 blocks away, I just find that offensive. I know I've talked to some commissioners today about it. I know that's not their position. My understanding is that is the position of the handful of neighbors that are pushing Wesley to build this fence. And I think that should be cited in the letter. I think, that should be attributed, that position, that the neighbors who want this fence view students as an intrusion to the neighborhood, and that's why they want to build the fence. So let's just get all the cards on the table. As uncomfortable and embarrassing as that might be, because it is such a ridiculous proposal, I think, let's just be transparent about it as to who's pushing it. But again, I just think it's just the height of, arrogance, and just it's absurd to just say, well, the neighbors should continue to be able to use the beautiful campus, but the students should be locked in and fenced in from walking on public streets. That's
Okay,
just ridiculous. That's all I'll say. Thanks, Tricia.
Thank you. I see Ms. Schultz. Ms. Schultz, you have the floor.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Totally. Thank you.
Okay. I somehow can't find the raise hand icon, so I did this.
You're fine.
Several things. One is, do we all agree that AU has a beautiful campus? Yes, right? Wesley has a beautiful campus. There is a gate. There are gates. from our neighborhood to AU there for quite a long time, and neighbors have, it's provided some measure of containment, really. And I felt the other night when we got an alarm for the emergency on the campus, I felt some measure of comfort in a way that there was a gate between AU and the neighborhood, and that it wasn't just porous, which is what it has been. So anyway, it seems to me that in the drawing I saw of the gate, the new proposed fencing, that it is not cutting off the green, the green, whatever, large green public beautiful space. It really was just traveling from what Wesley wants to build, the new administration building, linking that and the refectory. But so anyway, I'm not really talking about that. I also wanted to just sort of open up some of those ideas. And the other is that I know ANC3E feels that perhaps the main entrance to Wesley should now be on University Avenue, the main entrance and the main exit, because of that 46th Street intersection. And I have to say that for myself to come out of the neighborhood, that is a very, very, it's much harder to make a left-hand turn at University and Mass than it is from the main Wesley entrance at Mass. That is a straight, left hand, right hand. If you're at University and Mass, you have to go up, you have to go back, you're deciding whether to go down 46th Street or whether to go down Mass Avenue. That does not seem as straight a approach or an exit, except under certain circumstances. And I thought we'd negotiated some of those about time. That I don't think, which probably ANC3 entrance now to the seminary would be up University and up that exit hill. And I don't think that's a beautiful entrance for the seminary. It bypasses the chapel, the tower, that is where traditionally people have not been coming back through the air conditioner and the garbage cans, which are what is there now on that entrance. So I'm just advocating that I think that traffic should still primarily be coming through Wesley's main entrance and not be swayed by ANC3E, who is upset about that and feels that it should be coming down University Avenue. So that's the main thing. And I think that the fencing that has been erected for a long time between, and we still haven't resolved that, really, have we, between students having access to AU, that seems to be where they would most want to have their frequent access, would be to the campus where they're going to have classes, rather than to get down to Compass somehow or Pizza Paradiso. So that hasn't been resolved. So I'm not really sure where whatever happens will happen. And students can be good neighbors, and they are good neighbors. I'm of the mind even that having them interspersed in the neighborhood is not such a terrible thing. We keep hearing how they all should be clustered up, on the campus, but having a variety of ages and helpers and community members integrated into the community is not such a bad thing. But there seems to be also this, so many different thoughts here, and maybe I seem to be rambling, but I just thought I would share some of these thoughts, that some things are still unresolved and some things could be made worse, I think, by
we definitely we definitely appreciate your comments, and it is in the ANC3D letter that we think that vehicles should be pushed onto Massachusetts Avenue. But DDOT is going to have to make the determination if they'll be able to turn left sometimes, or right. But our letter right now, we do not think it's a good idea to push more vehicles into neighboring streets. The vehicles should be on major arteries. Commissioner Nowak.
Yeah, thank you. I think I'd like to propose an amendment, just to, in that last paragraph, that it refers to the fence, that we keep the first sentence while we have reservations about a fence. And then take off the first clause before the comma, and sort of reference such a fence would exclude neighbors from the beautiful grounds. And leave it there. I think that the point from Mr. Clarkson about it being an intrusion is well heard. Ms. Schultz sort of just echoed that students are a good thing in the neighborhood, or not necessarily a bad thing. We shouldn't need to think about excluding them from the neighborhood. So if we were to just take out those couple of words, I think we get our point across.
Thank you.
I will accept that as a friendly amendment.
Awesome. All right, can we move the question?
Without objection, we will vote on the letter as amended. All those in favor of this letter as amended? It is unanimous. Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
This will likely not be the last time that we take up this matter.
No, we have until eternity to deal with this, I think. Thanks very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you all. The next item on our agenda is a new sign at Dana Place. The motion on the floor is to add a no through traffic sign at the top of the alley behind University Terrace and Eskridge that feeds into Dana Place.
At the bottom of the alley, probably, right?
Can I get a
you
second?
wanna-
And then we'll pull up the map.
Okay.
Commissioner Roosevelt seconds the motion. Catherine, could you bring up the exhibit? Yeah, the exhibit. So right now, this is an alley. It was paved semi recently, so it looks like a big road now that people can speed down. And our letter asked DDOT to do two things. One, Google Maps and Waze shows it as a road. So we'll want to make it a little bit smaller if we can.
Madam Chair, is the proposal that that signs be put on both the Garfield side and whether it's Eskridge or Dana?
It's one way downhill. So there is already do not enter sign at the bottom. And we think that Waze in particular is feeding people down this, because you can see it looks like a road. It is not a road. It is 100% an alley. It's very narrow. All of these houses here, these are the rears of people's homes. You can see that there's some structures that are right on the roadway. It's not safe. Commissioner Davis?
Yeah, I'm just wondering if you have a sign that says no through street, it's a little softer than no outlet, right? Or do not enter, of course. But that could confuse utility, like trash collection, that kind of thing, as opposed to something that might say like local traffic only, where you can still be used to that there's a way to get out once you go in.
These are great questions. DC DDOT does not have local traffic only signs.
Oh, they don't. Okay.
They don't. That's not something that they do. These are city streets or city streets.
Okay.
So I had proposed a no outlet sign, and the work of the Transportation Committee said we shouldn't be installing signs that aren't true. So I conceded that makes sense, and that we should put a no through sign. That was sort of the compromise. I
Okay.
think that it might be fixed when DDOT gets with Google Maps and Waze
Okay.
and make this look like an alley, because most of the alleys here in our neighborhood are shown as alleys. Commissioner Elkins?
Madam Chairman, a no-through traffic sign is a controversial matter in our ANC. This ANC strongly opposed having such no-through traffic signs erected at the entrance of University Terrace and Cambridge Road, despite the very strong interest on the part of the residents. And I shared the ANC3D view about that because I felt that it would unreasonably move a great deal of traffic onto neighboring streets. I see this as an exception to that, and I wanted to say that for the record, that this is an alley. It is not a street. It's not like Cambridge Road or University Terrace. It's not designed to carry traffic, except for the people who live on that alley. And for that reason, I support this letter. While normally I think we should discourage no through traffic signs generally in our neighborhood. Now, we do have some, don't get me wrong, there are some in our neighborhood in extreme circumstances where people are cutting through to get to Rockwood Parkway from MacArthur. But generally, this ANC has been opposed to them where it would move traffic. I think this is an exception. So I will vote for this letter.
Thank you. Catherine, we could probably stop sharing. Thank you very much. Commissioner Roosevelt.
I want to say I had the exact same concerns as Commissioner Elkins. I was afraid this would be like a slippery slope thing here where like we install the sign here and then someone comes asking for a sign later, but this is pretty clearly an alley. I don't know why on Google Maps it isn't marked as one. We should try to, I don't know what we can do about that, but we should make it clear that it's not actually Dana Place there. It's just an alley behind these houses. And hopefully installing the sign will have someone else mark it, or maybe DDOT can mark it. I'm not sure how they go about that, but yeah, I had the same concerns, and at the transportation meeting, I was thoroughly convinced that this would not lead to other constituents coming forward being like, close my street, because this is a special exception.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? All right, motion on the floor is to approve this letter to DDOT. All those in favor? All right, unanimous. Wonderful. Okay, next up is a public space application. So the motion on the floor is to send a letter rejecting the public space application for the new MacArthur High School application. Do I have a second? Commissioner Nowak seconds the motion. I'm going to see if I can share mine because I'm going to want to use my cursor. So this came across our radar because they MCN, who is doing the public space who's doing the work for the new high school. Can people see this? It says exhibits for PS. Can you guys see this? Am I frozen? Can anyone see me? Okay.
I see it.
We can see it.
All right. The current conditions at MacArthur High School. This is where my cursor is here is the entrance where cars come in the morning and staff. And then this over here is the exit. Where you see the green rectangle there is the current Georgetown Day School sign. And I'm going to scroll up. It looks like this. It's got a concrete fascia and has like these nice stone pillars, and it is parallel to the roadway. This is what DCPS is proposing. They want to tear down this stone sign and install a new sign, which we'll bring up the drawings for that here in a minute, and then have no sign here at the entrance. I feel like this serves nothing to actually move cars nicely in and out of this site. I feel like it's got no presence for anything. So the letter explicitly rejects the permit based on the sign drawings, which we'll pull up here in a minute. But it recommends that they keep this stone sign and they resurface the concrete etchings on the front. And then this new sign that they do, they put over here at the entrance so that vehicles and pedestrians and cyclists and everybody can see it as they're approaching the entrance. And they work with the school improvement team on what that sign is going to look like. The most embarrassing thing about this entire application was the drawings that they submitted. Catherine, do you have those handy?
I do not think I do, Trisha.
Okay, hold on a second. I'm going to pull them up. Oh, shoot. I thought I sent them to you. Well, suffice it to...
I might be able to find them because you sent them to me for sure. So give me 1 second. I can pull them out of my email.
Oh, here. I've got it right here.
Okay.
This is what... This is the sign drawing that they submitted for the new high school. Marie H. Reed Elementary School. They didn't even, this is like a stock photo for an elementary school. I do think that it is lit. It's, you know, things are left justified on one side, right justified on the other. You can see about how tall it is. The brick walls about waist high. And I think that this is totally unsatisfactory for our neighborhood and a new high school that's going there. So I'm going to turn this off, and I hope you all will join me in rejecting this. Commissioner Nowak.
I think my greatest complaint, all of the things that you highlighted were valid, but there is an existing sign that can easily be repurposed, and you know, it's very easy to put on a new concrete, you know, engraved with the new name where Georgetown Day was. So they're talking about removing an existing structure to put up something that is suboptimal in its place, in its cosmetics, and in its location. So
so this has also been sent to the school improvement team. So my goal here is to get the Public Space Committee to reject this and send it back to give DCPS time to actually sit down with the community to get us some signage that will function to move all travelers, whether it's bike, car, walking in and out of the site properly, and to, you know, make a nice sign in our neighborhood. Any other, Commissioner Davis?
Does DC Public Schools have an office of like branding or, you know, for it to be consistency across all the schools? I mean,
So I believe they do, because this sign package here is from May 4th, 2021, and it's called DCPS Signage Manual, except for it's for an elementary school. That's what they think of this facility here.
Yeah. It's awful. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't even seem professionally done, if you ask me. Like,
yeah, it's from
a
manual. And in fact, I'm going to ask that I add a sentence in the letter highlighting that this is from a signage manual from May 4th, 2021 for an elementary school. To really hammer that home for the Public Space Committee. I'm gonna go ahead and call the question and without hearing any other, anything else. All right, all those in favor of rejecting this public space application? It is unanimous. Last but not least, for official action is the Trestle Bridge. Commissioner Elkins.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Once again, we are confronted with a possibility. We have an opportunity to comment on what the National Park Service does with regard to the Trestle Foundry Trestle Bridge. I think everyone knows this is the bridge that goes between Foxhall Road and Georgetown University across the park. It carried the trolley at its early history. And it's not in great shape, and NPS would like to authorize WMATA to tear it down, but it has come up again for comment, and we have an opportunity once again to weigh in and ask that it be maintained so that people can bicycle and walk conveniently from the Georgetown University campus area all the way into our neighborhood without having to walk down on Canal Road on a very dangerous sidewalk. I worry every time I drive past that driveway, sidewalk with people walking there, whether they're going to step off the sidewalk. It's very narrow. And of course, it's also up a hill, which discourages people. So anyway, there is an opportunity to save this bridge. If it ever gets taken down, it's highly unlikely that it would ever be built again. So the letter is before you. And I did have some comments from commissioners during the drafting of this, and I fixed those, made those changes. So the letter before us reflects primarily an organizational change of what comments come first in the letter. So I would like to move that we approve this letter. Looking for a second. And I'm sorry, I violated the basic rule. I was supposed to only give 30 seconds.
I'm distracted. So it's fine. Did Commissioner Davis second the motion? Or Commissioner Simquist seconds the motion? All those in favor? Great. That is super important. I am going to have to apologize to my colleagues. You will still have a quorum, but I need to go and attend to a family issue. So I am going to sign off and hand this over to Commissioner Elkins. All right, thanks.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. We will proceed now. I think we have finished with the official actions. We can proceed now to commission business. The first item on the agenda is the DOE testimony, but I believe that testimony has already been delivered. So, of course, Ms. Duncan is no longer with us for me to ask this question, but I don't think we need to take any action on the testimony.
We might need to we should validate it though. Is that correct?
No, I think she did in fact deliver it.
No, but can't we?
Let's take a vote saying that we endorse it and
This is like she's testifying with commission backing.
All in favor? Or do we need a second? Let's second it.
I'll second it.
All right.
Okay. All in favor. Boom.
Good, thank you.
5-0.
And I think we should do that anytime that it's already been given. Is that correct, Mr. Elkins? Because that frequently happens where we don't have a meeting, but we can validate it later. We can ratify it.
Well, that's a good point. I think in terms of getting great weight, I think in this particular case, legally it probably doesn't make a difference, but we don't get great.
But going forward, it might be a good practice to do this, to ratify it.
All right.
Support it.
Suggestion is well taken.
Thank you.
Now to our treasurer, the QFR.
Yes, Catherine, if you would please help us by sharing page 1 of the QFR, and then I'm happy to put up page 2 if anybody's interested. As a reminder, the QFR stands for Quarterly Financial Report. We are required by statute to submit a financial statement 45 days after the close of a quarter. That'll be May 15th. So a couple of highlights from this quarter's report. The 4472 is the standard district allotment that came through as scheduled. That was our only deposit. On the expense side, you'll see that the communication expense is on the high side. The items that fall within that are Zoom. Let's see, I think we had Zoom and Dropbox. No, Zoom is not in.
Could you
Not
show
Zoom.
page 2? I think that shows it.
Yes. Okay, thank you. If we scroll down to page 2.
I think it's a separate document, isn't it?
Yeah, it was saved as a separate doc. So we have our domain registration for ANC3D, the Dropbox, and SurveyMonkey. We also paid, of course, the ANC Security Fund, which I understand this is the last year that we will have to pay into that because of some changes that are happening down at OANC. The bank fees you'll see have increased from the $15 a month to $20 a month. There are some things that can be done with the bank that I'm investigating to see if we might get out of paying those going forward. And we do, of course, have the nameplate for Commissioner Davis. If we were to ever meet live and in person again, you will be well named along with the rest of us. So I did want to just point out that you may have noticed that we're a little light on personnel charges for the past couple of quarters. We did receive a rather large, very delayed invoice from our former administrator that just came in to Tricia and myself last week, the chairman and myself. So that will get paid during the Q3 period. And it really does cover 6 to 8 months of administrative charges. So that is less than ideal, but our current administrator has been much more timely in her submissions, and those monthly invoices will post going forward as well. And the other large expense that will come in the coming quarter is our contract with District Engagement, the software that we'll be using to engage with our constituents going forward. That is the end of the report. Happy to answer any questions that.
Yes, I have 2 questions. One is, where is the transcriber?
That is this quarter. That was after April 1st because it's a reimbursement. So he was paid earlier, but then it was reimbursed to your treasurer because of we changed payment methods to him.
So he was paid. It's just
he was paid. Yes.
The other thing is, I'd like to make a motion and that we not pay the previous administrator until he returns the district-owned equipment, which was loaned to him in order for him to operate as our administrator. I have called him 3 or 4 times, sent him several emails asking him to return the hard drive equipment, which has copies of all of our documents. It's part of our files. It was simply on loan. It was bought with ANC3D money. He has not returned it, and we basically are responsible then for this hard drive, which he refuses to return. Maybe he just doesn't want to see my face. I don't know, but my problem, I told him he could drop it off at my door. I don't need to see him if he's mad at me because he was dismissed. But I really don't think we should be paying him until he returns DC government property.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I think the other thing we can do is offer a Federal Express or UPS label that we can prepay, and he can drop at his local, mailboxes, etc.
If you would offer that to him. I think I'm not being effective in communicating with him, Commissioner, and if you would try.
Yeah, I'm happy to do so.
offer
Yeah.
that, I think that would be excellent. But I would like to make a motion and ask for a second that we not pay this invoice until we receive the equipment back. Is there a second?
Yeah.
All right, all in favor?
All right,
Unanimous? Thank you.
done. I will take that action item.
Any other questions on the QFR? Are you saying, Madam Treasurer, that still this software is not working after a year and a quarter of their promising that it did? Are you still having?
So it has been released and it is functional for some aspects, but challenging for others. So it's yeah.
Very sad. I'm sorry to hear that. As one person testified, who is a treasurer in another ANC, that it's the worst job ever.
Yeah, you know what? I think the software has promise. There are some features that I think were probably put in. Basically, if you enter something in, you cannot go back and change it. So God help you if you do it wrong the first time. It takes OANC intervention to get it fixed. So I'm hoping that now that they've seen the software out in the wild a little bit, they will loosen up some of those restrictions to make it a little bit more usable.
Let's hope so.
Yeah.
So hearing no other further questions about the QFR, let's see, have we voted on that? No.
We need to vote on the QFR itself. So I'm going to move to request that the QFR be approved as presented.
Second. Any
Okay.
discussion? All right, all in favor? Unanimous. Now we turn to our secretary, Commissioner Davis, for the minutes.
Yeah, I hope everybody got a copy that I distributed last week for review. Only got response from one, I think it was one commissioner that didn't have any issues with it. So I make a motion to approve the minutes as distributed, the draft. Second.
Seconds that. Any discussion? All in favor? All right, the next meeting will be on June 5th, the first Wednesday of June. Is there any further business before the commission before we adjourn? All right.
Do we know whether it will be online, in person, hybrid?
I'm assuming it's hybrid. Excuse me, yeah, not hybrid. I'm assuming it's virtual.
Okay.
But do not know that for a fact. But I think your question is well taken. I think I will make a note to ask our chair to make that determination sooner rather than later so we can put it on the website.
I just know maybe 2 meetings ago, we had people show up in person when we were only virtual. So let's make sure we get it out as soon as possible.
I have this time, I did myself go in and put on their virtual only.
Yeah, I saw it when I did.
Yeah, that was great.
So I think we should do that early on in the season, in the month, so people know. So thank you for that suggestion, and I'll speak to the chair about that. Any further discussion? Well, thank you all who have stayed for the meeting. My goodness, it's 9:16. This is a record for this commission. Thank you very much.